All right. Thank you so much to our presenters. We're going to get set up here. So the one thing I want to call out that I'm personally really excited about for this panel is that here at Workbench, we are very, very proud of our enterprise tech focus. We really wave the flag on all things not sexy tech. But it is nice once in a while to talk about really cool tech and really sexy tech. And I think this panel tonight is the best example of that. Quick show of hands, how many of you have used Airbnb before? All right, Matt. And so I'm excited to learn more from Matt and, of course, our other panelists tonight, how they're taking Airbnb to the enterprise and other great companies as well. So what I'd love to do just to kick us off is we're going to go down the line really quickly. If you can share your name, who you are, what your company, what your product does, who is the buyer that you're selling to, and then most importantly, what is something that's not found on your LinkedIn? So Matt, why don't you kick us off?
All right, so Matt Ziske, I lead the Americas and EMEA region for Airbnb for Work. Airbnb for Work started in 2014. It's a B2B product that allows individuals in traveling for work to stay at an Airbnb property just like they would a Hilton, a Starwood, a Marriott, et cetera. So our buyers, traditional procurement, travel managers, increasingly we're seeing some HR leadership overlooking travel or overseeing travel. And then something not found on my LinkedIn profile. I'm gonna go with hair. I'm still bald. I'm still bald in that profile pic, so yeah.
That's an incredible answer. My name's Anique Drumrate. I'm the head of product at TripActions, and TripActions is a corporate travel solution and technology company. And really what we're trying to do is shift the focus on corporate travel to being all about the user, all about the traveler. So compliance and adoption is not something that a travel manager or CFO really has to worry about, because travelers want to use the product just the way they want to use Airbnb or they want to use Kayak. So it's a different focus and a different spin on corporate travel. Buyers are very much the same as Airbnb for Work. And then the last question, what is not found on my LinkedIn, is probably my hobbies. So I played rugby in college, which most people would not guess.
Oh, cool.
But I'm also a yoga instructor, certified yoga instructor, so there's a big range in those hobbies.
Awesome. Dan?
I'm very uncool compared to the rest of this panel. My name's Dan Thompson. I'm the VP East Coast Sales for a company called Dialpad. We are a business communications platform that provide voice, video, messaging, call center, pretty much any way you would communicate internally or externally. Our buyers are somewhat different, so we sell to effectively 3 buying centers: IT, mostly the office of the CIO, VP infrastructure, sales, mostly sales leadership, inside sales specifically, and customer support. So love the demo earlier. Something you won't find on my LinkedIn, I'm actually really boring, so I'm a father of 2, and I love my kids. So
Nice.
I'm gonna go.
And you live in Jersey.
I do live in Jersey.
Jersey.
And actually, like all the Workbench peeps.
Yeah.
Which is amazing, because I live in the middle of nowhere. With all due respect.
We are heavily weighted to Jersey. Okay, cool. So again, the topic for tonight, you guys all hear about consumerization of IT. What's really cool now is this consumerization of corporate travel and productivity. And what's really great also about our panelists is we have sales and product, and Matt, you've done everything. So why don't we start with building product, right? So building a travel productivity product. Well, how do you even start, Anique, right? And when you guys set out to build TripActions, what were some of your assumptions going in, and what have been some of your biggest surprises?
Yeah, so TripActions is about 3 years old. We're growing about 23% month over month. And so our founders' original vision, because they were true road warriors, so they were people that were traveling every week, and it was just incredibly painful. And it was painful for a couple reasons. One, because just like the booking tool experience itself was very slow. So one of the first things that we focused on was just speed and efficiency. And then the other one is just care. Right? You're on the road all the time. It's stressful. It's hard. So a few things fall under that like care bucket. The first is your loyalty and status applied in the product? Do you get all the benefits that you should be getting as a road warrior? And then the other one is, corporate travel can be very lonely, and when you need help, you want to talk to a person. And so one of the things that we have invested in and will continue to invest in is how can we use very, very smart data to reach out to travelers at the moment they need help, so they don't have to come to us when they need support. So we call this proactive support, right? If you're gonna miss your connection, we don't want you fumbling around your phone. We're just gonna send you a push notification to be like, how can we help? Looks like there's another flight coming out of JFK instead of LaGuardia. So yeah, I think there's lots of things that we're continuing to do, but it really came out of how do we improve the traveler experience, and one of those is technology. The other one is like the human touch, and we just continue to iterate and expand on it.
Yeah, so I see Jason here just shaking his head, and I'm curious how many folks here have used Concur. Anik, what are some of the other legacy kind of...
Carlton, Wagonlit, Amex, Concur.
Has anyone gone through that process? Okay, so when you think about this product then that you're building, I mean, did you come at it from a consumer point of view, right? Did you say, okay, we're going to throw away Concur, anything that we've seen here, we're going to start from the ground up?
I think it's
what was that framework that you used?
I think it's less about throwing away any existing products and more about we deeply care about the traveler experience, and by doing right by the traveler, we are ultimately doing right by the customer. Because if you're a travel manager, you care about savings, you care about safety. You can't even do those things if your travelers refuse to use your product. So we need to start there on the traveler experience, do right by the traveler, and thus we will do right by our customer.
Cool. Matt, you want to jump in on Airbnb?
Yeah. So, I think when we launched the product in 2014, and I think our initial assumptions were, the product was launched more around a problem, right? There was compression in a particular city. A large enterprise software provider came to us and said, look, we need to access some of your listings so we can fit everyone that needs to come to this conference. So very, very problem specific. Compression markets around hotel, and then also we heard some comments around savings, right? And I think that was kind of where we were heading for a while, and what we assumed that because the deep care of our customers. I'd say there's a big shift over the last 18 months, 2 years or so, where corporations now, yes, they care about savings, right? Our listings on average are 20 to 40% cheaper than a hotel. Yes, they care about compression and like availability when hotel rates are high and inventory is low. But there's been a big shift into how travelers are productive, how to keep them healthy, and obviously how to keep them safe while traveling. And so that's probably the biggest learning of ours so far. And it shouldn't come as a shock to anyone in this room, because we saw the same shift in software 10 years ago, right? A shift to productivity, best of breed, a little bit more power to the end user rather than a centralized buying process. And it took a few years to kind of get to travel, but we're starting to see that folks are squarely in that space now.
So Airbnb for consumers versus Airbnb for enterprise. Again, when you thought about building out this product, what framework did you even use? Do both products look and feel very similar? There's just more analytics for the enterprise?
Yeah. So originally the product, honestly was pretty similar, right?
Yep.
And then as we started working with large enterprises, our learnings got a little bit tighter, a little bit faster. We realized that business travelers want a specific set of amenities around their listings, so we segmented out kind of those product features. As we got a little bit deeper into end users and decision makers in the enterprise, we realized that a lot of our admin features had to change as well. We needed to give more control to the travel manager, more control to the procurement manager. We needed ecosystem integrations, for things like security feeds and online booking tools. So I guess the evolution really is twofold. One was on the product side to start giving more business amenities, and then we had some deep learnings in the enterprise where we started building more robust admin features.
Cool. So for both of you, what's still number one on the product roadmap? Or actually, let me put it this way. What's the most requested thing on the product roadmap?
Well, I'm probably not making news here when I say this, but we hear loyalty a lot. Usually from road warriors, consultants, people that are on the road all the time. We bring a different value proposition to the marketplace today, and there was some news last week that we are kind of experimenting with piloting around loyalty. But that's probably, honestly, the number one feature we get requested for.
Monique?
Airbnb is pretty high up on the list. But I would also say in general, like, what our customers love the most about us is our support and our proactive support, et cetera.
And your support is by people.
It's by people. It's,
Humans.
It's driven by machine learning, but it is like also you will always get in touch with a human if you need it. And so I think something that's beginning to surface more and more is how do we allow travelers who want to self-serve their travel problems, which very few corporate travel solutions do. How do we enable that while also enabling that like very personal touch as needed?
Cool. Well, maybe the personal touch is the segue to sales. A little layup there. So you've built out this product. You now have to sell it to the enterprise. So Dan, can you tell us a little bit about Dialpad's journey selling to the enterprise? Some of you here might have used Uber Conference before. Any Uber Conference users? And so maybe you can talk about how that obviously both falls under the Dialpad umbrella.
Yeah, so as a little bit of background, our founders came out of Google. They actually started, believe it or not, the company that became Yahoo Voice, and then started the company that became Google Voice, were EIRs at Google. And when they came out, they got some seed funding from Google. Workbench is actually a big investor of ours as well. And we started Uber Conference, which was a conferencing tool, a lot of online sales, a lot of one-man LLCs, which we appreciate, really helped us get our footing. And we probably grew to 20,000 customers paying before we decided to launch our VoIP tool, which we called Dialpad. So when I was brought on board about a year and a half ago, we had 45,000 paying customers, of which the average size of company was 5 people, right? And I have background in enterprise sales. Prior to this, I ran most of North American sales at a company called Smarsh that you may be familiar with, being in Portland. So that's really why I was tapped to come on board, and we had no East Coast presence, minus a couple of reps that were camped out at Workbench. So what we found is moving into the enterprise, I echo a lot of what you said around needing more administrative functionality. What's been really surprising to me is that focus on the end user experience is still very sought after in large enterprises. My background selling regulatory compliance, information security, information management, those were all really, really ugly UIs, and I never actually had to use them myself. So now being at Dialpad, using Dialpad,
Eat your own dog food. Drink your own champagne.
20 hours a day, as much as I hate to admit it, that much. It's really blending, and it's kind of similar to what you said, right? Blending that end user usability with the administrative functionality. And really trying to balance your roadmap priorities, right? So where are we going to double down? Where are we going to invest? And where do we make educated bets on what will be most attractive to the largest swath of the population?
Yeah, and so Uber Conference, like you said, the average company size is 5. You're trying to go enterprise now. So tell me just about maybe some of the contract sizes there, some of the companies you're selling into, and that shift. Because I know many people here, again, a lot of people start maybe with freemium, they start with direct to consumer, they then have to move to the enterprise, and it's a very different universe.
Yeah. We do have a free product, by the way, if anyone wants to try it out, Dialpad free. Up to 5 lines, completely free for life. But when we moved into the enterprise, what we found was continuing to focus on those end users, continuing to really partner with our customers to figure out what they needed in terms of those additional features was really helpful. So where we're at today, I've been here 18 months. We probably have somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 enterprise customers here in the Northeast. Average deal size is probably around $250,000, maybe a little bit less. And what's been really interesting to see is where we excel and where we have the happiest customers is either in what I would call low enterprise, so say around 1,000 employees, or in the really large distributed enterprises. So one of our customers that's using Dialpad in some really interesting ways, education first. They're a Swiss company, they have 47,000 employees in 127 different countries. And if any of you have spent time in the Boston area, lots of employees up there. What they do is basically educational tourism, travel. So they've been rolling it out business unit by business unit. We've grown to about a third of the company now, and they're actually even extending Dialpad to their end customers. So if you think about the use case for them, if you've ever seen someone do a travel abroad program in high school or college, a lot of times that's done through EF. they are partnering with us now to give licenses to college kids and high school kids. So on their own personal iPhone, when they're traveling overseas to Italy or Spain or wherever they've always wanted to go, their parents can call them. It's not going to rack up crazy international rates. So it's been really interesting just seeing
the different use cases.
What do we have to do for a use case,
Yeah.
and where can we extend that to other customers?
Cool. Matt, I'm curious what has been the most surprising learning from selling Airbnb for work?
Yeah, so to just kind of echo off what Dan said, like it's when you put a product in a customer's hand and see how they start to use it, it's really interesting where that goes, right? In the same way that our business to business product started with kind of organic use from the enterprise, we started to see the same thing with our experiences product and with our meeting spaces product, and so now we've expanded our product offering to now kind of allow small meetings and group experiences and team building and things like that, and all of this is like literally from putting a product in users' hands and watching kind of how they interact with it.
Interesting.
So it's been really cool, and we've seen really positive feedback on it.
So I'm curious with procurement, because Matt used to own procurement, so it's a little meta, right? So you used to own procurement, now you're selling to procurement. Do you find that a lot of these procurement buyers are the same ones who in the past evaluated Concur, or are they completely new, have never looked at a vendor, this is a brand new sale, fresh eyes, very eager and willing, or are they jaded and you have to do a little bit of education?
Well, I love all my procurement people. So no, look, it's generally speaking, I think in our space at least, we're generally seeing people that have been in the space for a period of time and have seen a couple cycles of evolution in the managed travel space. So these are people that are deeply familiar with the ecosystem, deeply familiar with the tools. We actually launched a Concur integration about 3 weeks ago, so Airbnbs show up alongside Concur now. So these are people that have evaluated both products and are usually familiar with it, and which is good, right? We're able to have a conversation around how that context is shifting. We're able to see firsthand that if you satisfy some basic requirements around saving, compliance, safety, that you can start focusing on the traveler and what they need while they're traveling, how to keep them healthy, productive, et cetera.
Cool. And Anik, in terms of product and selling into, let's say, SMB and enterprise, right? Curious who here sells directly to SMB? Okay. Sells into the hardcore enterprise, that's what we call it, Fortune 500. All right, a little bit more so. So curious in terms of product requirements for the two that are different, right? So whether it's security, whether it's,
So for enterprise and larger
hardcore
mid-market, there's definitely requirements around one login, HRIS systems, ISOS, et cetera. But I think the most surprising thing as we've gone kind of up market is that I would have assumed when I went into sales conversations with these larger companies that they would have cared a ton about savings and a ton about compliance and policies. They definitely care about those things because they're managing a very large program, but they really care about their travelers being happy. And so most of the conversation is spent around what is the traveler experience and the traveler tool, which honestly it was like a really nice surprise because it's like we're all aligned there.
Is this NPS though? Is this measured by NPS? So when you say that the users are happy, how do the actual buyers?
It's NPS and it's adoption.
Cool.
So it's the adoption number. It's so we have 97% adoption.
Cool.
So if you tell me that you're going to spend $10 million in travel, we're going to get to depending on the company, from anywhere from 95 to 102% of that adoption, and that's what the buyers.
And do you build
really care
NPS
about.
directly into your product?
Yes, we measure NPS in lots of ways. So we have trip NPS, which again is that holistic trip. How was your experience at your hotel? How was your experience on the go? How was your mobile experience with us, et cetera? And then straight booking, which gets to efficiency, right? So our average booking time is 6 minutes. We want to be cutting that down more and more and more through customization and personalization. But I would say efficiency is another huge thing for larger enterprise accounts where they don't want their travelers to be spending 30 minutes to an hour booking.
Yeah.
They don't want their travelers at a two-stop flight. They want to make sure that our recommendations are taking all of that into account and that we're using their employees' time efficiently.
Yeah, and you're having that data to back it all up,
Yeah.
right? So Dan, here at Workbench, we totally geek out on enterprise sales. What advice do you have for our audience in terms of selling to the enterprise? Your number one hack or trick?
So I don't believe in hacks. I believe in hard work and smart work.
All right,
you need to
heard it here.
You need to understand your buyer. Like, that's what it all comes down to, right? When we pivoted from selling solely to IT to selling to sales and services, we had to rein our sales team in and tell them, hey, you're in sales, you're going to sell to sales, you think you have no idea, right?
Did you think selling to sales is harder than selling to IT?
Well, I've been selling to IT for a decade, and I just started selling to sales like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
But I also understand all the challenges sales leaders to go through.
Yeah.
But I will say IT leaders are used to the deluge of different products they're being sold, whereas sales is at a point where sales tech is finally now hitting critical mass, and there's all these different tools out there, right? So it's kind of like what we saw with MarTech like 3 to 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So I would say understand your buyer personas, understand your industry, understand your really unique selling points, and then get really good at, and I'm biased, I'm a sales guy, right? But get really good at digging deep and understanding if these are real concerns, because the worst thing I can do as a sales leader is just take all of my sales reps' feedback on face value, bring that up to folks like them and say, hey, we need to build all these features where we're really just wasting cycles in development. That's making it harder to sell disruptive, futuristic technology, right? One of the things our founders say all the time is we don't want to build the next PBX, which for those of you that aren't telephone nerds, is like the corporate phone system, right? We want to go to where the puck is going. So hopefully that was some helpful advice.
All right, let's open it up. Questions? Yes, sir.
You mentioned safety a number of times, and I'd just like just a little more explanation as to what companies are thinking about and what your response to that is to sort of meet whatever that need is.
So the question's around safety.
Yeah, so I can begin with that. So if I'm someone who is managing a travel program and I've, let's say, 100, 500 travelers traveling at any one time, I definitely want to know where they are. Let's say that there's a tornado, let's say that there's any type of terrorist attack, et cetera. I want to be able to pull that data immediately. And there's also third parties that are experts in this, and they want our data to be integrated into that third party. And it's risk as you get into larger companies and you have more and more travelers traveling at any given time. And then it's also the piece of if there is any type of medical emergency or anything like that, that someone has their back in terms of helping them navigate those one-off travel concerns.
Yeah. So I mean, what we see buyers really focus on is two things. One is, do they know where their travelers are staying? And then two, are we able to feed data to a security system that's triggered by real-time events? So, and both those things together really satisfy like enterprise safety needs, right? So, if you have a traveler in Tokyo and there's an earthquake, like you need to know exactly where that person's at, how to message with them, right? And then also know that there was an event that they need assistance. And for our product, we feed every major security system every night. We offer travel managers a real-time view into where their own travelers are at any given time. Security teams are often included in that as well. But then, finally, a real-time event trigger, whether it's political or natural disaster, that kind of lets the travel manager know that they have people in that region that need help.
It's kind of mind-boggling how 10 years ago none of this was really possible, right? And travelers were just traveling the world, and companies said no real way, meaningful way of tracking them.
Yeah, no, and touch on a really critical element earlier. It's like what we saw, particularly around lodging, is the industry average is like 40 some odd % leakage, meaning they go book a flight, but they just get to the hotel booking later, right? And so what's really important, I think, in building modern enterprise travel tools is that you make a product that's a delight to use, that's easy to use, so you don't get that leakage. So when something does happen, you're looking at the entirety of a trip or an itinerary, and you can act in an informed way.
Another question. Yes, sir.
For both Matt and me, how much do recommendations play into the product, the algorithms behind it? And what do you do to sort of manage the end user desires with the CFO's desires of wanting to manage certain things like costs?
Such a great question. Yeah.
Yeah, for us, that's like core value prop. So anytime that you're dealing with a road warrior, that's the easiest example. They have preferences, nonstop. They want United or Delta. They probably want to book with their friend, etc. So all of those factors are taken into our recommendations for flights. And you know, when you're in our product, you can see this was booked by you previously, this was booked by your friend, this was booked by someone in the network, and again, it's taking into account all of your loyalty and the number of stops. At the same time, we're also running like a fair market price. So you always have a guiding price as to what is reasonable, and what that price is it takes into consideration the number of stops and really what's reasonable for travel. Again, like, people care about efficiency. So it is a balance, and it's something that we're constantly iterating on. And then the metrics that we use to measure that is average time to book, savings, and then also of your first 10 search results, what number were booked from those first 10 results. So for flights, departure and return, it's an average of 95% are booked from those first 10 results. So for us, it's for sure like our bread and butter of our experience.
I'm gonna ask, are there any women who wanna ask any questions? Yes.
Sure, yeah, sure. So really quickly, we do obviously preference things like superhost, and there's a bunch of criteria to be established as a superhost, which is a number of ratings, not negative ratings, response time, things like that. So we definitely drive that up. And then around savings, like I mentioned earlier, what I get really excited about as an ex-procurement person is the savings comes built into the product, right? So what's really interesting in travel is that to save money, you generally have to take something away from people. So, hotel costs have gone up year over year the past 10 years. Airline costs have gone up year over year the last 10 years. And in order to save money, you generally have to reduce a per diem, go from 4-star to 3-star hotels, right? Change policy and degrade the traveler experience. What we found in talking to our enterprise clients is not only does the savings come inherent in the product, and they're significant, but it's additive to a program, right? People enjoy using our product. Travel managers generally don't get thanks, but we hear every so often that people reached out and thanked them for including us in the program, et cetera.
All right, last question.
For me, sounds like you're a TMC and a booking tool together plus some other stuff. Do you ever sell some of the services individually? Like, for example, if I'm tied into a concurrent contract for the next 30 years, do you act as a TMC and integrate with them? Or, go ahead.
Are you in procurement? I love this question. Yes.
So we are a full solution. So we will partner with expense systems, HRIS systems, et cetera. But in terms of parsing out our tooling or our offering, that's not something we're doing as of right now.
Awesome. Can I get a huge round of applause for my amazing panelists? I think hopefully you guys can hang around for a minute or two and catch up. John, any last words?
The next meetup is November 7th. I hope to see you all there.
Last one of 2018. Thank you, everyone.